I'm fixing one of the most popular mixers of all time, the KitchenAid mixer, and we're going to be doing it by designing and 3D printing our own new parts. We're also going to be laser cutting new gaskets to replace the broken ones, and we're doing it with some cool new tech and also using some old school techniques as well. So let's get into it. And this particular one is about 25 or 26 years old, and it was in some desperate need of some maintenance. So I've had the whole thing apart. I've cleaned all the gears and I've re-greased everything on the inside. But while I did that, unfortunately, I ended up breaking both the gasket at the front and I also damaged the gasket at the back there too, or the heat shield material at the back there too. This knob, you can see that it's cracked, actually completely broken off. This one is cracked. On the bottom, we're missing one foot at the front. I'll make the gasket files available, of course, as well. If you have a laser, that would be ideal, but you can probably also 3D print the one at the front here. And we're also going to come up with something at the back here to store the cord. There are some options out there right now for that, but I don't like them because they store the cord like this. The very first thing you should do is make sure it's not plugged in. Take any accessories off that you can. This comes off. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to get off. It's a pretty tight fit. So if you need to get it off, you can use, oh yeah, give it a little tap from the top with the screwdriver. Nothing other than friction holding that one on. This pin here has these little ridges on it, and that just makes sure that it doesn't come out on its own. So that pin goes right in here through this planetary holder section, and then through the shaft in the center. And once you take that off, you can get it off. It is a little bit of a tight fit again. And there's also an O-ring behind there. And that's what it looks like on the inside. I've already re-greased it. There's a little paper washer up here too. Make sure you don't lose that. And obviously with this piece taken off, you have access to those screws. Two Phillips head screws at the back. These are self-tapping. And then this band will come right off. This is just aluminum. It's kind of a cover and decoration. One Phillips screw at the top. Make sure not to lose this. It can fall off. And there you can see the damage that I've done. This piece is supposed to be attached to this. And this is why you want to make sure you unplug it, because you could electrocute yourself really easily here. It looks to me like a very dense paper, a cardboard material, some sort of a shield. So this goes here, and this piece was bent up like this. If there's no turning action going on, it's probably this gear here that needs to be replaced, because that is a nylon gear. The motor shaft is not going to be the piece that wears out. It's definitely going to be this piece here. This is a paper type gasket, and you can see it's broken. And if it's broken here, what's going to happen is the grease that collects at the bottom is going to find its way out, and it can potentially leak down the front into the food that you're mixing. I don't want to risk that. Look, that's all that was holding this thing together. There's no piece at the front. Most of the videos that I saw online with these mixers just show people with the problem. They don't show how to solve it. Like that. And then this shaft inside of here can come out, but it can only come out when you take those screws out. That comes out, and you can just replace that if you need it. This one probably was made from ABS, injection molded, and we can use ABS, ASA, but actually I think any 3D printing material will work just fine here. When I make replacement parts, I like to try and match the originals as closely as I can, unless there's some sort of obvious flaw. So we can start by taking dimensions from the original knob, and since we're 3D printing these, I am most concerned with the strength of these new parts. So to make sure it doesn't break again, we can design the replacements to have layers at 90 degrees to the shaft, so that when we press fit that shaft in, that force does not want to break the new knob apart. We can extrude the flutes just like the original, and then we're going to add some fillets and chamfers as well. My original version that I created had supports, but since then I've made an adjustment to the design so that we no longer need supports, and the shaft is also going to be easier to insert in the new version as well. In the slicer, to help with making nicer overhangs where we have that large fillet on the bottom, I'm going to be using variable layer height below that area and also at the very top for a nicer looking print. And also to help with looks, I'm going to be adding a very light fuzzy skin, which helps a little bit with the grip too, but it does a really good job of hiding those layer lines. The standard fuzz size is way too large. I like to use a 0.1 millimeter for both dimensions, and that gives an excellent finish. We'll do the exact same thing for the feet, except for the feet are just way easier. So I've got some TPU. This is 98 TPU, so it is quite soft and flexible. So I think this is going to work pretty well. I'm just doing a cold pull right now to make sure that the nozzle is prepared for loading in that really soft TPU. So it's not sticking great because of the grease that's just impregnated right into that paper, but I think this will be fine for now. Any new laser should have this ability where we have a wide angle lens up top, like the H2D here with the laser module. That allows us to place our material down, we can take a shot, and then we'll see where the cuts are already being made, and we can make sure that we place our new parts in between those. But it can also be used like this. We can place our templates on there on something that's contrasting. Because they're flat, this is going to work really well. We're going to take an image of this, we can just trace those parts, and that's going to give us our new reproduction parts. But when it comes to capturing really fine details, I find that it could use a little bit of improvement, and that is where the X-Tool Metal Fab actually does a better job, and that's because of the dual camera system that it has. So this is the camera that I'm interested in, and it just happens to be the perfect size for doing what we're doing. So all I've done, laid a piece of plywood down first, and I'll just put something white below it just so I can get a little bit more contrast. And it looks like horizontal is going to be a bit better than vertical, so I'm just going to move this. You can see with just the wide angle lens, this is the result that we get. So that's very similar to what we would have with the H2D. Actually, I would say that this version is a little bit more fuzzy, so it's less usable, but we can use this button here, which is called close shot. And we take the close shot, we can position it where we want it. And this is the result that we get with the close shot feature. I can only take one at a time, unfortunately. I have put a request through to X-Tool to see if we can do multiples, but this is perfectly fine as it is. So I can either trace it in X-Tool Studio using the vector tool. You can just trace around the perimeter there, or I can take a snapshot of this because it's a flattened image, and I can save that, and I can bring it into Fusion as a canvas. And I can then trace it right in Fusion. And that's the way that I'm going to be doing it, because I'm already going to be using Fusion just to make sure that I have everything nice and refined just how I want it. And I'll do the exact same thing for both the front gasket and also for the baffle, the air deflector at the back. This is the gasket material that I want to use. This comes in an assorted pack. I got this from Parts Source for a different job. And this is 1 millimeter, and this is 0.8 millimeter for the darker. I don't want to risk making a mistake. So what I'm going to do is I have some Bristol board. I'm going to put this on the laser, cut it out first, and make sure that it's exactly what I want. can see that's how it should be. I don't know why they would have done it any differently. The original did not compensate for it either, and because these are going to be available for everybody, I want to make sure that I do this properly. So just a bit of material to remove right in here. And what I'll do is I'll route the wires over top of this so that they can sit down properly. And I think that this is a deflector for airflow. So the air is pulled in through here, and you can see that paper deflector is supposed to fit right in here. So I think that's what's happening. The air comes in through the bottom, comes through the motor, cools everything, and then back out the back. These are made from ASA. I did a quick test back here, and it turns out that the settings for cutting bamboo are the perfect settings for cutting this material, so that's what I'm going to use. See how this gasket fits. So I ended up making the thinner gasket just because I didn't really want to have two sheets that I cut into, and I think this is perfectly fine. And it fits great. Let's see if this works. So for this, I have two different types of lines. I have a laser line, which is basically just a score line, and then I have the cut line. So the cut line is the vertical, so that means that we should be able to just bend it. I made these completely solid, and they are not as flexible as I would have hoped, but I think they will work. I just might need some clamps to get them in. For the print profile, I'm just going to make them probably 35 or maybe 50% infill. The hole was a little bit undersized. I'm going to make some adjustments in the design, and the adjusted version is the one that I'm going to be posting. And I originally tried heating this up with a heat gun and heating up the pin. That was a mistake. The hole ended up closing in on me just slightly and making it even more difficult to try and get that pin in there. So a vise and a little bit of protection on this top surface so that we didn't mar it up, and that was all that we need. This is probably one of the most common issues I see with these. I see a lot of them cracked, and I see a lot of them completely missing this part. The last thing that I want to do is find a way to get this cord wrapped around here. Usually the way I wrap the cord is kind of like this, and then it just hangs over the top. So not really great. And one thing we need to keep in mind is that this top will tilt, so we need to make sure that it doesn't interfere with that. It is deceptively difficult to try and mount something to this, and that's because this is a curved surface, curved in multiple directions. So normally I would use something like Polycam, and I would take a 3D scan of this surface, and then I would get something reasonably accurate. But Polycam now is a paid software for that particular part of the software, so I'm not going to use that. Instead, I'm going to go old school. We're going to use one of these guys here. This is the version that I've mounted to both mixers, so it has this kind of beaked area. And this does work, but I felt like it could have used some improvement. So I've gone ahead and refined it a little bit. I have this wavy section in here now, so it's easier to push the cord in. It holds it just fine, but it also has a little bit more flexibility in the size of the cord, just in case this cord varies a little bit. So this should work to accommodate a bunch of different sizes. And I've also made one more subtle change just to help it hold the cord a bit better. These flanges or wings come down just a little bit further than the originals. And this is the new knob. You can see here, no supports needed at the bottom. And a very fine fuzzy skin. These ones turned out great. So I use double-sided mounting tape by 3M. That is automotive grade mounting tape, and that's the stuff that I like to use for any of my projects if I want it to last. It's good for exterior, it's good for anything pretty much. As you can see there, not very much of a gap, and I probably could have even done a bit better, but I think it's pretty good. Now it's easier to mount this if you first just place it up against it without any mounting tape, mark the top and bottom positions, and then you can put the mounting tape on and you know exactly where it needs to go. So if you have some appliances at home that are kind of broken and could use a fix, hopefully this video has inspired you to get out there and do something like what we did in this video and 3D print your own fix or laser cut your own fix. And if you're looking for these files, the link is down there below in the video description. Also, if you're looking for a recommendation for 3D printers, I'll have my top picks down there below as well. Thanks to my patrons for helping to support this channel. Thank you for watching. Take care and hope to see you on the next one.